do want to talk about and I do want to visit because I can't get over how much of a liar he is, right? And I'm not even talking about like the lies that an officer may or may not tell when is investigating something. I'm talking about just the blatant falsification and either omitting the facts or twisting things. And there were just some things that stood out to me that really bothered me, um, that I kind of wanted to point out, right? And so let's see if I can get this thing to screen share. I had this put in to CapCut and I had the transcript initiated so that people could hear and or I could read and quote and sometimes see like what he said. Some of the words are a little jumbled because of how he tends to talk, but I wanted to start right. Let's see. All right, so okay. So let's start right here and have you listen to this, okay?
So she's not there. So I started just looking up, any kind of intel I could find out about them in all of our investigative tools, if you will. So, I'm looking at Peregrine to see all these old reports and incidents and things of that nature. So I find a call where actually Joseph was the 911 caller. He called in a domestic standby to his mother's house. I believe it's 921 Little River Lane. He calls us to go there. In the call notes it said like he currently lives in North Carolina and his girlfriend lives here, and there's like a vacuum cleaner at the mom's house that he claims is his, and then the girlfriend or the mom claims it's hers, and it's basically like a domestic standby to try to go get the vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
So I watched those videos from like the body camera to see how that situation was, because at this point I'm curious, like, is the mom gonna help me? Like, if they're arguing about a vacuum cleaner, maybe she'll snitch on him. Maybe she'll tell me some information I need for my investigation, right? So I find that information and I'm like, cool, let me go over there and see if I can talk to mom. And I go over there to the house, and when I get to the house, I was like really surprised to find the girlfriend's car there, because I was like, why? Like, they're arguing over
Especially
a vacuum
when there's a
cleaner.
civil dispute.
Yeah, a month ago they're calling cops to come, argue about a vacuum cleaner, and then now you're here at her house. Like, interesting. So I go on down to the house, ring the doorbell, look inside. We're always taught not to stand in the fiddle funnel, so I'm looking, to see if anybody's coming through the window, try to get any advantage I can, ambush, whatever, officer safety. So nobody comes to the door. I walked around the side of the house. The garage doors were open, and I didn't see anybody there either. So I was like, okay, I'll just go back up to my car. So I'm up in my car.
Let's stop it at that point. Now I want you guys to watch this, okay? Okay, pay attention to this video. This is when Officer Mills first arrived at my house. Let's see, you can see he parked his car right here to kind of camouflage it behind this tree. And this is directly behind my son's girlfriend's car, okay? This is obviously Officer Mills walking onto my porch. Now, I do have two floor to ceiling windows in the front of the house. They are covered by sheer curtains. We do not normally put blinds on them because they are so far back from the street. The average person that comes to my house, unless you're trying to search in it or looking for something, you cannot see into these windows unless you are to walk over in this direction. Right here, you have to walk and actually get up close and peer through. So the average person obviously just comes up these steps, knocks on the door, and will either wait and I answer or they leave if nobody answers, right? That's not what he did. And so, yeah, so let me show you what he did. And also, I probably need to show you guys a picture of the front of my house. He did state that he went and looked into my garage. My garage door was open. However, it does not face the street, and you would not know that it was open unless you were down here in this area, and then you would have to, be peering into it. So that is what he did. So let's just watch it. Also, pay attention to the time down here. I find it interesting that in his reports, in his internal affairs interview that he did with Lieutenant Barone, he said that after he did this, he went back to his car to work on an arrest warrant. That's not what he did. Yeah, he went back to his car. I don't for 5 seconds believe that he was working on an arrest warrant, because why would you sit outside my house for 20 minutes and work on an arrest warrant somewhere you know that my son does not live and was not going to be? If that was me and I was truly going to arrest somebody and I could sit somewhere, I would just sit outside his apartment. That would make the most sense. But no, he chose to sit outside my house, except for he actually pretended to leave first. And then he came back and he parked back in front of my house, where he sat there and tried to call numerous amounts of people. He tried to call my old cell phone number that I haven't had in probably 7 years. He tried to call Taylor's father. I would assume that is because her car is probably registered to him, and he probably ran the tag and got that information and was trying to call her or call him. He was just trying to call everybody. So that's actually what he was trying to do. But anyway, let's watch this video. So you guys will notice that you heard the ding, and you would think that that actually rings on the inside of the house. It does not. It has the chime on the actual doorbell. And I have a German Shepherd and a pit bull mix who hear everything. And so, it's quiet in my house. They heard him push that button and then decided to go absolutely crazy. I know that somewhere in his report also, he was saying he keeps insinuating that Taylor was intentionally hiding from him, which is complete speculation and paranoia and assumption on his part. Our home has a fully finished basement, and it's like a basement, which is where our teenage boys live. Mind you, I have another son too. He's 16 and he was not home the night of this incident, thankfully, but their bedrooms are downstairs. So when Taylor had came over to pick up Chris, she was down there with my other teenage son when Officer Mills arrived at the house. So naturally, they just didn't hear anything. The only reason they happened to come up when we got home is we got home and went and told them we were home. So there's that. But so okay, so let's jump back to the internal affair audio super quick so that you can hear some more about what he says after he knocked on my door and looked through my windows and went and looked into my garage. And mind you, if this was some strange man on my porch or in my garage doing these things and I saw this on my video footage, I mean, that would be the type of person that I call the police on, because why is somebody searching through my windows? You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's stalkerish and creepy. And just because you wear a badge, I don't think that makes it legal. So yeah, let's take a look at this footage. So let's take a look at this. Listen to this super quick.
So I'm up in my car, and at this point, I kind of figured I have all the probable cause I'm going to get, and it's plenty for his arrest warrant for fleeing the night before. So I started working on getting the search warrant together. So I started typing
Search
that.
warrant or arrest warrant?
Sorry, yeah, I spoke ahead. The arrest warrant. So I started
Okay.
working on getting the arrest warrant for him on my computer while I'm waiting, right? Also, while I'm up there, I was trying to call to try to get any other kind of intel I could. So, like, I was trying to call the Taylor, and she wasn't answering. I found some phone numbers for Natasha I was trying to call, and she wasn't answering. There was like one conversation I think somebody answered, but he said I had the wrong number. I don't know.
I heard the recording.
I never looked back to see if that number was actually someone or not, and they were just telling me that. But right. I don't. So I don't know. But so I'm calling a bunch of people. Nobody's answering.
Okay, now let me show you where he leaves my house. Okay, so this is where Officer Mills actually leaves my house. So look at the, it's going crazy. Hold on. Look at the time. I can't move my mouse, otherwise it'll mess up. But look at the time. It says on August 30th, 2025 at 20:08, well, 09 right here, PM, right? So he leaves at 8:08 PM. I'm going to take it back here. Here's his car, and you see it leaving the house. And you would think he's leaving, right? That would be what any other normal person or officer would do when somebody doesn't answer. But then we have this one. Okay, here is where Officer Mills actually comes back to my house. Look at the time. It is 8:10:24. So approximately 2 minutes later, for whatever reason, he decided not to leave and he was going to come back. So that is when I would assume he decided, you know what, I'm going to go back and call everybody. Interesting, right? Then let's see. So Officer Mills says in his internal affairs video that that Officer Hart came by, which makes no sense. I live in a neighborhood, a dead-end cul-de-sac, so it wasn't just stopping by. I happen to believe that he probably called him for some reason, which is kind of creepy and interesting. I want to say that, and we'll have to look at it in a second, but I want to say that he said they spoke for a minute. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, so he said he told him what he was doing, and no sooner than did he tell him briefly, a truck came down behind him. Let me see. Oh, okay, so Officer Mills came back at 8:10 to sit in front of my house. And then approximately 12 minutes later is when Officer Hart was there, and you can see our truck coming down. Uh, and we were unable to park, so we had to pull right there. I'm sorry, we stopped the truck. This is where I actually got out of the car. You can see my son still walking into the house. I'm getting out of my vehicle and walking, I would presume, and you can see Officer Mills getting out of his car already. He says that, you know, I forget what he called me in the report. He said I was something, but clearly you can see that, I mean, I wasn't nasty in any sort of way. Matter of fact, if you listen closely, I actually said to him, "Can I help you?" This one? Oh, yeah. Okay, let me share. Let's go back to the audio again because I want you to hear what he says about where I was when he got the warrant, right? So let's go back here. We'll start right here.
We're on a residential two lane street. No double yellow, but just it's wide enough for two vehicles, and he's in their way, right? Because they're trying to continue down the street. So Corporal Hart goes on down to the cul-de-sac to turn around, and that's when the truck pulls in and actually stops at the house that I'm at. I'm like, oh, okay, here's someone. So on Hart's way back out, I'm like, hey, pull back in. I'm gonna need you real quick for a second because I'm in the process of getting a warrant. Like, maybe she can tell me more information. I don't know. It's better to just have two people there than not. So he hangs out for a minute. At that point, I see at least one small child, Natasha's boyfriend, Natasha's mother of Joseph. Um, and then Joseph get out of the truck, and the Joseph and the kid go to the house, and Natasha starts walking towards me.
Okay.
Like they go down the hill to the house, and she starts walking towards me. So I get out of my car to go speak with her in the front yard. And, I try to ask her about a motorcycle, see if she knows anything about it. She's like, no, like get it, like weren't you just at his.
Mind you, he left out the part that he actually approached me and asked me if I remembered him first. And I did not remember him. And matter of fact, I told him no. And when I said that, he proceeded to tell me, who he was and how I should remember him. But yeah, he left that part out of this. So
Job talking to him, and like, yes, and she's like, well, what'd he tell you? And it's like, he won't tell me anything. That's why I'm trying to talk to you. So that interaction is very quick, and it's like she just tells me to go get a warrant, right? Go get a warrant. So I'm like, actually, I'm in the process of doing that. Can you make sure he stays here so he doesn't run away? There's no failures of justice, right?
but warrants. Chris is not at his house. He is at my house. Okay. Officer Mills was supposed to get a search warrant and an arrest warrant to be back on my property, especially once I told him multiple times to leave without the warrants.
So I hop back in my car and get the arrest warrant signed. Once I have my arrest warrant, I go back down the hill towards the house where Natasha's on the porch with her boyfriend. And I tell him that I have a warrant for him and he's under arrest. So she goes inside, gets him, brings him out. When Joseph comes out of the house, I noticed.
So let me show you. Okay. So he says when he comes back down with the warrant that I am. So he says when he comes back down with the warrant that I am on the. Okay. So Officer Mills says that when he comes back down with the warrant that I am on the porch, right? So let's take a look at this video. Okay. Now let's take a look at this video super quick because Officer Mills says that after he got his warrant, he came back down to the porch where myself and my boyfriend were supposed to be standing. So here's what actually happened.
No, you're good. Go on.
What are you charging him with?
A lot of things.
Like?
On the warrant right now is speeding and eluding.
So pay attention to the fact that, first of all, I was not on the porch like he had said. Matter of fact, he wasn't even on the porch. He was outside letting the dogs use the bathroom. And Officer Mills came back down. I heard the dogs barking, so I came out. And he immediately had that passive aggressive, condescending attitude, did not want to tell me what he was being, the smart ass, a lot of things, which was totally unnecessary and called for. And you can hear the tone of my voice, pretty respectful. I'm okay with do your job, and I'm okay with it. But he still clearly had an issue. And he had an issue up here when I spoke with him. I do not care what his report says, what his internal affairs says. Eventually, that body cam is going to come out, and you're going to see where I, did cut him off because I didn't want to hear it. I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about, once I tell you to leave my property and get warrants before you come back, that's what I meant. No amount of continuing to talk over me is going to change my mind. So, he got snappy, and he was upset that I made him, do something else. Mind you, he only got an arrest warrant, did not get a search warrant, so he technically should not have been back on my property or arresting my son to begin with. Notice Corporal Hart is now going down into my garage whenever I go in to get my son, which is where you hear in the other video that has been shared on multiple channels. I'm asking him, do you have a warrant to be in my garage? Especially my son was actually up here at this point when I realized, because I went inside, I didn't know that he went down there. And when my son was standing here being arrested, he was still down in my garage, and I actually pointed it out, right? So let me let you listen to this super quick. Okay, so let's start here and listen from here. I'm probably going to make several other videos because there's other things that I want to point out. And obviously, a couple other YouTubers are going to make some things that are probably way better at this than I am. I'm not a YouTuber. There's other discrepancies that I want to point out and don't want to put it all into one video because it gets super long. And I'll probably put this part into other videos as well. But I wanted people to hear the portion of the internal affair where Lieutenant Barone, who, mind you, is the only investigator I'm aware of at Cherokee County Sheriff's Department who does internal affair complaint interviews and investigations. And this is very concerning because there's a point towards the end of the interview where Lieutenant Barone kind of takes control of the conversation, and he essentially holds Officer Mills' hand, or Corporal Mills's hand, and leads him through the end of this conversation in order to create some sort of defense against what he did at my house. So, yeah, just take a listen and we'll see what you think.
So, it made me believe, that's hindsight 2020, but at that moment I knew this girlfriend's in the house and she's clearly hiding from me because I was ringing the doorbell when she was in there and she didn't come to the door. She didn't answer it, and she wasn't answering my phone calls. And I believe that in the time that it would have taken me to get that search warrant for the house, if that phone was still in there with Taylor, it would have been destroyed. And it's so quick and easy to destroy a cell phone these days. The reason, the cell phone was so important to me in the first place is, I'm a traffic investigator.
So this portion is redacted for 41 seconds. I'm not really sure why. You can see down here also another large portion of redaction. Anyway, let's go to right here.
All kinds of things that would be found in that phone, and like I said, it's so easy to flush it down the toilet, or take a hammer to it and break it, or tons of ways to destroy it. And it was very imminent that if I didn't secure the scene and keep that from occurring, then that's very likely what would have happened. Just like
there's another portion that's clearly redacted.
So
I want to talk about exigent circumstances and hot pursuit with you really quickly. Why do you believe that there was exigent circumstances for you to want to get the evidence, even though this incident occurred? I'm sorry, the arrest incident occurred approximately 24 hours later. Tell me, did you see the person that...
So notice the long pause from Corporal Mills. He did not know what the appropriate answer was for that question.
You arrested show up at another residence. He wasn't at his apartment complex.
Right.
He was at his mother's house. And you saw him show up to his mother's house?
Right, from work. I knew he was coming from work. That's where I just met him.
So your exigent circumstances went from Friday night to Saturday night because you were able to identify him between that time frame and place him at a different location.
Right.
And you physically...
What? Did you forget the part where Officer Mills was just at the pizza place where my son works talking to him? So you hear how Lieutenant Barone wants to try to squeeze in those exigent circumstances from Friday night to Saturday night because he watched my son show up at my house. But what about while he was at the pizza place?
Physically saw that person, your suspect, go from a vehicle in the parking lot. I'm sorry, the driveway into the residence.
Right.
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 And you suspected what?
That the phone was going to be in his possession.
And the next thing you know, next thing you see, when you actually place him under arrest, he's got what on his hand, in his arm?
Phone numbers that are.
This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, to even sit here and claim that he was even thinking about a phone at that point is insane. Let me remind you that Officer Mills was not at my house to make an arrest. He was at my house to speak to me. It is when I told him to leave without warrants that he got upset, then decided he was going to arrest my son. Okay? He didn't even have the probable cause to do that. So to lie and say that you were thinking about a phone being in his possession is insane.
That the phone was going to be in his possession.
And next thing you see, when you actually place him under arrest, he's got what on his hand, in his arm?
Phone numbers that are written there that like I said, most people bring their phone with them, and clearly.
Right, and that tells you what? That he probably took numbers out of his cell phone,
like he was
loaded on his arm, and then handed the cell phone over to somebody, or hid that cell phone.
Like almost like he was intentionally trying to keep me from finding the cell phone, because he probably very well likely knew evidence was on there as well.
Okay. So that tells you I need to go ahead and secure this scene. I don't have time to go back to the precinct, create a search warrant, get it signed, then come back to the residency because of what?
That it was probably going to get destroyed or lost or hidden or
Okay, so you decide to go ahead and secure the scene, ask everybody out of the house, and you don't receive too much cooperation. You place the homeowner, Miss Natasha Lopez, under arrest for obstruction and hindering your investigation. You get everybody out, and ultimately you end up finding the cell phone. Basically, the girlfriend was holding it.
Yeah, and she's the one that was hiding in the house the whole time with it. Yeah.
Mind you, I will take you back in a different one or a different video to the portion of this internal affairs. It is actually kind of funny. Not funny, but these allegations and assumptions and whatever, because he contradicts himself, because earlier in the internal affairs he says that when Taylor gave him the phone, he said that he thought it came from the couch. He wasn't sure. He thought it could have been sitting on the outside couch.
So
it seems like you did some good police work, Corporal. Is there anything I didn't ask that you think would be beneficial to my investigation?
So yeah, that was about the gist of wrapping up that internal affairs. There's so much more to it. This is such a messy situation. Like I said in my other video, this is kind of what happens when you lie and lie and lie. It kind of gets harder and harder to maintain it, right? So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments.